Hi students, hola clase. Okay, so I'm here at Mercer County College JKC Gallery, photography gallery, and you guys remember Rabbit who was a mentor the last session, and she talked to you guys about her artwork, and I'm sure she'll come back at some point and talk to you guys again. So because you guys couldn't come here because of scheduling, I asked her if we can do a quick little video to talk about her photo that is here, her photo series, which is a little bit different from what you guys are used to, but I think it's also really cool and important that you guys learn this kind of part of art too. So the first thing I want to talk about is, before we even start asking questions, look at this amazing photograph, fabuloso. And I know we're learning about color theory. So can you talk to us a little bit about the colors before we learn?
Absolutely. So it's really awesome that you actually picked this one, because this was the first thing that I had in my head to do. Normally when I start shooting, I'll have, like, for example, with this series, I'm doing all objects. So I knew immediately that this was under my cabinet and I wanted to put it on blue. I love anything that has really hard, sharp contrast to it. And I wanted these images to be really, really memorable, really poppy. Something that you just want to look at, almost like if I'm literally wearing this color right now, if this would be an outfit, it would be cute, whenever I shoot photos, I try to either choose something along these lines where there's multiple different colors that are going on that are blending in contrast together, so nice, sharp, standout colors. Or you can actually see, I'll do the complete opposite, where we have this measuring tape over and through here, and it's a lot of warm blends with a little bit of light shadow on the bottom, and that kind of orangey red color bleeds up at the top. So this is a good example of how all over the place I am as a creative. I purposely, I had this image in my head and I knew that I had to shoot it because, as we all know, this is not what Fabuloso looks like. In classic Latin fashion, this is a different liquid and I don't know where it came from. So it's probably something that my mom put in that bottle and gave to me. So I don't know if that
answers. Probably Lysol.
It smells like lemons, that's all I can tell you.
Okay guys, so one of the things before I talk to you about your show, and you tell us the name about your show and just kind of go around.
Sure.
Really quick, energy. Remember we talked about that, the colors. We're learning that certain colors bring out certain moods in people's personalities when they look at it. Mm-hmm. So these are the colors for energy. So when you guys take your Polaroid pictures, you can kind of get an idea. Good energy. Okay, so tell me the name of your show.
Yes.
What the idea. How did it become about, Tell me everything.
Sure.
Tell us everything.
So this exhibit is called the Greyscale Economics Project Phase 1. The Greyscale Economics Project combines data, storytelling, and photography from members of non-traditional economies. So I made up that term in essence. It basically means anyone who earns money in an abnormal way. That does not necessarily mean that these people break the law, but some of them do. In economics, we call that licit and illicit function. But I didn't use those terms because when working with individuals who exist in these spaces, that kind of language can be not only intimidating, but it can also be something that might scare certain people away. So I chose this term non-traditional, and it basically just means somebody who maybe earns cash and they don't put it on their taxes, somebody who does something that the US government says that they shouldn't do, somebody who does something part-time and somebody pays them sometimes and then they get money or they get food or they get something else, so barter and trade, so on and so forth. So this exhibit has, through the data collection, I provided and sent anonymous surveys to individuals, and they took those surveys. The surveys had 12 questions on them, and they asked some questions that we're going to get into. We'll read some of them for you, but preemptively, things like what hours do you work? If you could do anything for a living, what would you do? And how much money do you make annually from this work? So we have the data portion of this project. I also interviewed individuals anonymously they would have to reach out to me and say they would like to be interviewed, basically. And I contacted them and I spoke with them on a whole bunch of different platforms. Discord, Telegram, FaceTime, in person, over the phone, basically you name it. And you can see on the walls over here, that is displayed with these guys. So with the quotes, that's basically what I decided to call them. These are, while I was having conversations with individuals, I wrote down every single thing they were saying while we were talking, and took the most poignant part of our conversation and added it in for here. I would like to think that one day I'll get to a point where people will read full transcripts of a 30-minute interview, but I did have to edit them just because, as you guys can probably see from at home, this is a lot of words and content to get through.
I can almost see this as like a photo book, like a table photo book with the photos of the people and the interviews. So one of the things, I've read some of them, guys, and like when you read it, it almost feels like you get to know the person without even seeing who they are. For example, like, let's look at one of them. Yeah. Let's see, I'm trying to get one that's not gonna scare you guys. Hold on. Sure. So this one is, the questions that she asks is, the first thing is, what do you do? They deliver food. How many hours of work do you typically work? 12 hours. What hours do you work? From 4 to 8. How long have you been doing this kind of work since lockdown? What days do you typically work? Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. How did you get into this field? By family. What do you earn annual? So is that 10,000 or down my eyes?
So
really
this one is, do you have annual expenses? So like, do you spend money to make your money? Mm-hmm. And they spend $1,000 a year.
They spend $1,000 a year to make money.
Yeah, and they only earn $20,000.
Yes.
So we don't really know if that means that they make $21,000 or if they only make $19,000, but it can be deduced that, like, I would always assume on the lower end that they just make $19,000.
Right. And like when you ask someone, do they have any dependents? It's kind of like you can tell whether or not they have children, right? Like family close, so they have none.
Yeah. So
is this your main work source of income? And he said, or she said, yes. Why do you work in a non-traditional economy? Because of COVID killed theater. So you already know, like, they're an actor that had to basically go out there and like Uber drive, right?
Yeah.
So, and if you could do anything for a living, what would you do? Trade stocks. Like,
isn't that interesting?
That's like insane.
It's the best part, yeah.
So from just reading each block that Rabbit did, you can almost see the person. You know, this person's like a theater person who's driving an Uber, who like is, you know, losing $1,000 a year, has no children. So it's actually a really cool project when you break it down like that.
Yeah, thank you.
And then and each one is a different person. So how many do you have in the show?
So in this show, there's 45. I have more than that because I always get new responses, like they trickle in every so often. So there's 45 survey responses that are printed in this exhibition, and there are 25 quotes in total.
So that's like 45 people in here with us right now, with different worlds and stuff like that.
Exactly.
And I guess I'm going to ask you guys during the conversation about this, what would you put for your thing? Like, would you make it up? Would you put somebody that's like, I wish I was this person? Or what do you think you're going to do in the future? Mm-hmm. Actually, was what I'm going to ask you. Do you think everyone's honest?
Yeah, so that's actually a really, really good question. I don't think anyone asked me that at the artist talk. So whenever you are collecting information from any subset of the population, you always have to assume that there is one person who might, you know, add a couple $1,000s or decrease a couple $1,000s. This is like STEM science, right? So like data collection, this is like analytics. There's some fun things going on here you guys are probably familiar with from school. But in psychology and in sociology, when people study large groups of individuals, unlike in economics, they assume that people will just tell the truth when they run analytics, or when they ask surveys, or when they do any form of like question or thought experiment, so on and so forth. So this project kind of functions in the same vein as that, basically, more like behavioral economics and traditional economics, where we would assume, like at like a decibel amount, what the likelihood of someone, you know, saying, okay, well, if most people inference that they make $5,000 more than like changing those numbers, but within the responses that I got, the laws of when you see on a piece of paper, you are most likely to give a correct answer if the top of the piece of paper says, please write a correct answer. You know what I mean? So like I'm kind of function based on that ideology that if someone is so willing to respond to 12 questions and it could take them 25 minutes, that they'll probably tell me the truth. So a lot of this could just not be real. But interestingly enough, actually, when I was doing research, when I was having preliminary conversations with individuals who I knew from prior projects that I've worked on, who I wanted to interview, who I wanted to have take the survey, that was actually one of my arguments as to why it was safe. So if I have someone who does something for a living that they have a high likelihood of going to jail for if they were to be found or caught, I have the ability to say this could all be fake. So there is no legal precedent to prove that just because this person told me that they sell art and that they make $4,500 annually, that that's real. Mm-hmm. So if you are a person who transports organs from state to state illegally, you can feel somewhat more comfortable if I am a fuzzy artist with a fuzzy art experiment that will not hold up in the court of law. So there's a bit of a benefit in being able to say that to people as well, which is like people.
It's almost like this weird underlying protectiveness, like journalists have with people when they interview them. You know, some journalists you can feel like you can be really honest with them, and others are just kind of like, yeah. So with artists, it's kind of like you're this artist that you came and asked these questions. They're like, well, this is a cool project. I'll be as honest as possible.
Yeah, hopefully.
So another question, I guess, was I heard you talking in your last artist talk how you dress up or you dress down, so you won't give any kind of change the person's thought or idea of how they should answer. So it's almost like if I was dressing really sexy and then I'm interviewing someone, they're like some guy's gonna be like, and he's gonna tell me what I want to hear, right? Yeah. So I think that's how you said it, and maybe I should use a different example for you guys, but you know how I talk. So can you talk a little bit more about that, like how the people that you did interview?
Yeah. So especially for individuals who I interviewed in person, and also throughout, because this is phase 1. There's 4 phases. I've already started working on phase 2. Simultaneously. So even people who I've shot in person, I do this for as well. I make sure that I don't look like this. So I make sure that I look like someone who is really uninteresting and that there are no, I'm not wearing like a Puerto Rican flag on my chest, you know what I mean? And I'm not wearing like, some really crazy, interesting eyeliner or something that my personal style would tell me that I should do. Because I don't want the individual who I am interviewing to obtain any inference of what they think I want to hear, which is like exactly what you said. I don't want someone to look at me and say, oh, you're an artsy person, and, I'll tell you that I'm a really creative so-and-so. Because people do that, and it's a subconscious bias and assumption that we do when we are meeting new people, where you're more likely to speak or mold yourself to mimic the individual who you're speaking to. So in order to try to control for that reality, I will not wear this shirt when I go meet someone who sells crack cocaine. I'm not going to try to let them know anything really about me, because I want to be like a black cube that you talk to.
You wear solid colors?
Yes, so I wear all black completely, and I tie my hair back. I wear no makeup, no earrings, nothing fun. If I have nail polish on, I'll take it off. I normally, whenever I do anything, and I learned this earlier on in my career, I always wear shoes I can run in. So, no heels. Yeah, you gotta run. Shoes I can run in. Yeah, you gotta be really prepared. No stilettos, nothing fun, nothing really flamboyant. And I have this photography uniform that I don.
Do you meet them at a coffee shop or somewhere where people are gonna be in case you get thrown in some back of car?
Yeah, this is a great question. My mom loves this question. So I've been doing this for a little while now, and I've got some good tips and tricks. What I do when I'm meeting a new person is you have to be cognizant when you're a documentary photographer that people are as worried about you as you're worried about them. And a lot of the people who I even contacted via social media were horrified that I contacted them. Like some of the scammers who I've worked with, some of the people who do things that they're really not, they don't want to be found, they were very afraid of me. So I think that's an important thing to keep in mind. But what I do is I'll talk to an individual for about 6 months. I'll talk to somebody for a very long time. I will get to know what your dog's name is. I'll get to know your mom's name. I will learn who you are. I'll basically become friends and acquaintances with these individuals. And then, for example, I will do a couple phone calls. I'll do a FaceTime or two, make sure that, they know that I look the way that I look and that I'm a real person, and make sure that they are who they say that they are. And then when I go to meet them, I will meet them at a public event. So that's what I do. So obviously you would look at me and you'd probably think like, you should be more careful about what you do every day. So I'm not the most intimidating looking person in the world, but so I wear my black outfit and my uninteresting shoes with my uninteresting hair, and I will go to, a event like a pork roll festival or, a Starbucks somewhere, or something where there'll be lots of other people and where I'm familiar with the space that I'll be in. After doing that a couple different times, like these things take like years to build. After doing that a couple different times, then I will go into the space that they function within. I always tell people where I'm going, and I tell them when I am going to leave, and I tell them when I am going to call them afterwards. And if I don't call them afterwards, then there's like a set of parameters that I have, kind of like going on a date as like a modern digital person, So yeah.
I guess my question is like, and I'm going to read a couple more for you guys to get an idea. Like, we got the Uber driver, which I'm just saying Uber to Uber. When you meet these people and I guess it'll take you, like, let's say, a year to befriend them and kind of, like, learn all this information, learn information from them. Do you stay connected after your project is over with that individual? So, like, that you doesn't feel like, you're just, like, using that person. Do you stay in a relationship with... I'm obviously not like BFFs, but you guys stay connected.
Yeah, and actually this is an interesting point. What I do, as much as I am a photographer, I'm also a journalist. And journalists, when you get a contact, you never let them go, and you always wish them happy birthday, and you make sure that you continue that communication, because for me to spend a year befriending someone and learning someone and learning what they go through, it's really important to, one, it is kind of like you don't become friends, but it is a relationship. Like, people start to become real people to you. Yeah. But in order for me to do my job properly, I can't learn about scamming for 5 years and then think I get to talk about it in 10, because it'll change, right? So in order for me to do my job properly, I need to stay up to date on what people are doing. And in order for me to just, I think, generally be like a good documentarian, like you should continue to foster those relationships, once you're done with somebody.
That's really, Can you read that one up there?
Oh, yeah.
I like that it's got some...
right? So this person said, I don't mind what I do, but sometimes I think I could be doing something better or more important than just cleaning houses. I'm happy to have work, though, and it pays all right. I just like to do something more impactful.
It's that, right? Like, you want to just, it's really interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, some of them have heart. And, like, she also has some of the photographs of some of the jobs, right, that you, like, preview, which I really like.
Yeah, so actually all of the content I don't know if I mentioned this already, all of the content that's in each photo was informed by an interview that I did with an individual. So I asked people, like, what are 5 things you need? Go. And I tried to obtain what it was that they said. Yeah. Some of the things I couldn't get, some of them I have to try to find somewhere, because they're abnormal objects, to say in the least. But yeah, so that's like what's depicted was all informed by that.
I also wanted to just make a comment. Like, a lot of these remind me of, what are those things called? Like, when you put index cards in the little roller things, I guess.
A Rolodex?
A Rolodex.
Yeah.
Like, I said it as I was like explaining it. It's like little lives.
Yeah.
Different people,
it's
right?
It's like a slideshow.
It's like a slideshow of people.
I'm
It's just
so
really
happy
genius.
you
I really
think
like that.
I'm so happy that you think that. That's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, I kind of want to, you pick one out and you get to like almost know a little bit about their intimate life that normally, because you know what, some of these questions, are not like really asked a lot unless you're going for a job interview, unless you're like, but in a real discussion and conversation, you don't meet someone and say, hey, how much do you make a year?
Exactly.
That's like, everyone's really weird about that.
And
I usually tell people.
That's what I want. Like,
yeah.
I'm actually going to probably make shirts that just say, like, how much money do you make annually? Because I really think it only benefits the individuals who pay you, that we don't talk about that in the United States. And
so one of these is like, I had to ask her what a swiper was.
Yeah.
So that's a person who said that works in the world of stealing people's identities, right?
Or, well, not necessarily. They basically...
You explain that.
They scam. So a person who swipes, they basically are individuals who predominantly use methods of money transfer, federal funds, personal banking information, so on and so forth, to move money around and then to like get it out of a digital platform of some kind. So I know scammers who they do check scamming. I know scammers who do unemployment scamming.
Yeah.
I know scammers who do PPE loan scams. I know scammers who make money that doesn't exist. So they're not even technically stealing money from a person. I know scammers who scam companies. I know scammers who you can. When some person says a swiper, they're purposely not being. Actually, I know who did this one. They're purposely not telling you information because they don't want you to know what kind of thing that they do. But you can, if you scam, you can do it in a number of. There's hundreds of thousands of different ways to do it, basically.
And just by looking at this one person, right? Like we don't know who this person is, and they work 85 hours a week. I mean, that's a lot of energy, right?
Most of these people do.
But then you think like, well, why would you work $85 a week to kind of do something that's criminal? You see that they have 2 dependents. That might be 2 kids. You see that they have a felony, so that could be like maybe they got arrested and they couldn't get a regular job, so this is the only way.
Yep.
And they make only around $70,000 a year.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like out of all that, you get to almost see the person. I'm really interested in when you get to photograph. I'm assuming some of them you can't photograph them, but just even like you did, just like things of their jobs and stuff like that, and then put it together so we can have a visual of it. Because it is really interesting to see all of this, and it kind of puts you in a place personally when you look at this. Like, where are you in your life? With what you're doing. So if I got asked these questions, like, how honest would I be with myself? It's not even with her, like, how honest would I be with myself? Because it can be like, well, wait a minute, wasting my time. And if you're going to learn a lot about yourself.
And like a lot of these things too, like when you write it down, it becomes real. A lot of the people, most of the sex workers who I've spoken to, they can tell you how much money they make immediately. A lot of the scammers I've spoken to have no idea how much money they make. A lot of people who work in like manual labor, they know immediately how much money they make, So it's interesting, just even the things that people are conscious of all the time.
Yeah, working paycheck to paycheck, working just like hustle to hustle, whatever, just having a like overall. And we're gonna just take a look at some of the other photos. Because I don't want to like, since you guys are gonna come, I'm sure you guys have a lot of questions. So I'm going to
call me.
Yes, either put you in through Zoom at some point or give your email, so like that you guys can answer her questions. Send your questions. I'm pretty sure you guys have a lot of questions.
I love answering questions.
And this is such a great. I'm just like stuck on all the work on like reading, so I'm not even paying attention to you guys. This is what happens to me. Did you cover everything you think for this show? Like, did you cover everything that, anything you want them to know while looking around?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess just not even really talk about the show a little bit, but I think that it's really cool that Tamara has like brought you guys here in this context because, you've seen some of the work that I do previously, but within art, like there's no limit to what you can demand to be considered artwork. And I think that is a really powerful thing for like young creatives, young people to learn because, when you go to an art gallery, you don't have to just expect to see something that's flat and three-dimensional and that you just look at and then walk away from. Like, you can like impact people in a whole myriad of different ways. Like you can involve math, you can involve STEM, and you can involve storytelling into things. And if you think that that is like of value, and like that's a way to look at photography. Like I use photography as a way to get people to notice something I want them to notice. And I'm really interested in economics, and I'm really interested in data journalism, and I'm really interested in how many hours you work a week. And so this is kind of like, photography is like a vehicle for me. You know, I want you to look at what you're passing by more. I want you, I'll put you on something and I'll be like, oh, this is pretty looking. And then be like, oh, well, what is that? You know, because I know that the majority of people who are not like my mom or my friends wouldn't come to an exhibit with just these things on the wall. So like there's so much power to the ability to make people pay attention to something and to communicate something. And
especially now with like the way things are, everybody's like fast moving and no one wants to stay still, no one wants to look at something. And I think like, I think this is kind of genius in a big way because, for me personally, I'm looking at every single slide and I'm just thinking of a whole person. Like, do I know someone like this?
Yeah.
Like, is this someone do I even know this person? I feel like I know them. Like, I know him. But it's so personal and it's so interesting just to read each one, So I think sometimes maybe a little bit of more photography can kind of take away from people actually reading it, It's kind of like, it's better to have just the slides because people are going to pay attention to that. And if you put too much, then we all just go to the images. It's like a natural thing and no one wants to read. Yeah. This is such a fantastic show.
Thank you.
Congratulations. I really hope you get. This is the last day, right? This is the last day?
Friday is the last day. I'll be here on Friday. It's appointment. You gotta tell. Yeah. I gotta tell me. We gotta tell somebody. Yeah. But Friday is the last day. So if you have like one person who really wants to go and maybe they're free. But this project. So did I tell you about the other phases yet?
No.
Okay. I don't remember what I've said to anybody.
Yeah, sorry.
Just because we don't know when this is going out. Friday, May 22nd is the last day.
Yes. Thank you, Michael. That's contextually very important. Not in like June. So this is the first phase of this project. The second phase is going to be, much like Tamara already foreshadowed, I'm going to run around. I'm going to sit on street corners and I'm going to have surveys for people in person to fill out. Which they could do anonymously by just like dropping it into a little box. It's really important when you do data collection that you make sure that you're not demanding that people meet you on a digital platform because not everybody can get to a computer. So I am aware of that, and that's something that I will spend a lot of time doing in the next couple years. I'm also going to do more interviews. I'm going to do more photography, changing these objects, sourcing some information that I need to obtain so I can shoot new stuff. And I'm going to start meeting with other individuals, some of whom I've already met with, to take photos of them in their spaces, doing what they do, juggling their lives, so on and so forth. And those will be, the end photos will be anonymous as well. And I'm going to be documenting myself doing all of that stuff. So the second phase is kind of like mini TikTok documentary series of me doing all of this stuff. The third phase will be another exhibition of that new data, those new survey responses, and those photographs of individuals, within their spaces. And then the fourth phase is going to be a book with all of the data that I have at whatever point I would publish it at and some analytics, some really fun graphs and stuff like that, so you can gain like a better idea of the overall database, like what we picked up, what we learned. And a collection of the photography from all of the exhibitions. The surveys live forever. They're in English and they're in Spanish and they're 100% anonymous. They will be on the internet for as long as the internet exists. I'm going to publish a database with all of this information on it that anyone can access for free. So in 10 years, if you want to look at the spreadsheet where all of this information is and see how it changed and see how the laws changed and how policy affected things and what people are saying, exactly.
Right.
So you'll be able to reference that and hopefully it will continue to keep growing and I'll get like thousands of responses and it'll be really interesting. And that can be used for literally what anyone wants to use it for. So I want to make sure that, this is not going to stop when like we turn off the camera, you know, it'll be like 10 years when I finish this project.
So you think it's gonna take you about 10 years?
Yeah, like 7 or so, somewhere around that. Yeah.
I just want to point out that if you guys or your like parents or anybody want to be part of this survey, it is anonymous. You can just go ahead and like she'll send me the link and I'll post it in the chat thing. You guys can do it. You guys can send it to your friends if you want to do it. I'm gonna do it just because I want to be in a slide. And like I want to look for myself in the slide. That's all. That's the only piece. See, and I want to support you, but mainly I just want to see myself in the slide and just like that's my life.
Yeah.
So in Spanish and English, real quick question before, and you know we have to go. Because you have, you know, Spanish and English, do you put, is the question is like, do you know like the races that are like, do you have like majority of like, you know, I don't know, white people filled out 56%, 25% black.
Interesting.
Do you have like a
data on that? I would love to have data.
Is that harder to put together?
But that's the thing. So like when you build a survey, right, you have to, I said this in the marriage talk, I'll say it again. It is like negotiating. If you ask for too much, you're not going to get anything that you want. And if you don't ask for enough, you're not going to have something worth having, right? So with the surveys, I wanted to ask the most pertinent information that I thought would be impactful for a viewer, and that would also actually have value when you analyze it after you have 100,000 responses, right? So race, I didn't include a question on race. I also didn't want to make a participant feel like I'm trying to identify you.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to know where you're from. I don't want to get into that at all. But one of the things that I did do, because I'm a crazy person, when I was doing my outreach for like all thousands of the people that I reached out to, I did keep track of how many Instagram followers everybody had and where they're from. And then I kept track of if they responded to me. So there was like other data that I've been kind of like soft tracking that I could pull inferences from that too, which just has to do with like the statistical average of response rate. But that's about it as far as like what the stuff that I've got, you know.
I think I just wanted to ask you that because I feel like that's going to probably be a question you're going to get asked throughout the years, right? Like later on about like, because I was interested. I was like, well, I wonder what percent of what is who answered, you know?
I'd love to.
But I guess it's very anonymous as well, right? So it doesn't even, like, you won't even know anyway. So I think that's good. And the questions you ask are just so, like, personal, but not, like, intrusive, you know? So it's really, like, easy and good to answer. I will be answering my questions. And I would want her to photograph my face. Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you so much, Anya, for doing this rabbit. I'm messing up her name. And I will see you guys soon. And make sure you get some questions for her.
Yes, please.